East Recreation Park District Board of Directors regular meeting of April 2026. Will you all please stand and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you.
Director John Stonebreaker.
Here.
Director Robert Anderson.
Here.
Secretary Jolene Levy. And Vice Chairperson Steve Rodwick. And Chairperson Alma Green.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I see that all board members are present. On behalf of the board, we want to welcome all our guests this evening. So thank you for coming this evening and attending our meeting. Item 1.4, special presentations. I see Ms. Munson is here tonight with some of her Elements participants. Do you have something you want to present to us this evening? Please come forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And just as a reminder, this grant was secured by Scott Amick and Dan and a number of folks here at PRPD in collaboration with Butte County Office of Education and some other stakeholders in the community through a grant through the California Natural Resources Agency. The grant concluded in February, at the end of February 2026, so just a month ago. So we want to share the results of our time together, a few pictures, and then 3 of the students that have been in the program the longest are going to share just briefly about their experience. So we have a video. It'll be small, but just to give you a little bit of the flavor of some of our trips. And so we have 2 short videos that are like less than 2 minutes each. Either one. One of them is photos and one of them is a video. Videos.
No one else is born.
And we have one more short one. So you can see we've had a lot of fun. We've been a lot of places, almost exclusively in Butte County, with the exception of going to Lassen National Park. And for the sake of time, I'm going to just jump. You got 2 handouts, and I'm not going to go into depth with those. You can look at them at your at your own pace. But though at the end of 2 different cohorts, we contracted with a local therapist, Blake Ellis, who's studies ecotherapy, and interviewed all the participants in depth through one-on-one interviews, and then summarized all the data into themes so you can see what the results were of the participants' experiences in the program. But we have live people here, so I'm going to let Max say something, and Aiden and Donna a little bit about their experience, and then if you have any questions.
Thank you.
Hello there. Thank you all for having us. I am Max. I have been in the program since about 2023. I'm currently the longest standing member. And throughout this program, it has genuinely been a tremendous help to me. I have met a lot of people. I have really fully decided and started going into what kind of profession I really want to be in, and I got to explore that a bit by being so outdoors since I'm going into conservation of wildlife. And so this project has helped me meet a lot of really cool people. It has given me a lot of really cool experiences. I've had a lot more mentality about my mental health and how that's affected by the wilderness and being out there. And in all, it's really opened my eyes. I think it's a very important program, especially for teens who are struggling, teens who are unable to get off of social media. I think it can genuinely help a lot of people. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for sharing your experiences. That means a lot to us too. We're really proud of you.
Again, thank you guys for having us. I want to say the Elements program has, much like Max said, it has helped a lot of us young people really get more perspective on life. And by having these experiences outdoors and building this community, it's really shown us new pathways of what we can do for jobs. Like, I mean, meeting people like Blake Ellis and Scott, and man, I'm blanking on all the names, but there's so many people. I think in the video they covered fire, like wildfire burnings for like preserving the land and upkeeping the land. And that's just really cool. Like only one facet of so many careers that we are able to see of people who are actively working in the outdoors. And especially for a young person, it gives you a new perspective on what you can do outdoors besides just, using it as a recreational activity. It can actually be a career. And by building that experience for us, especially when we're young and we're figuring out what we want to do, it's very helpful. Thank you.
What was your name, young man?
My name's Aiden White,
Aiden?
and
Okay.
I've been with Elements, I think, about 2.5 years now.
2.5 years. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Hello. Okay. Thank you for having me. My name's Donna. I've been in the program for about over a year now. And within that year, I can definitely say my life has changed in the best way possible. When I first joined Elements, I was a senior in high school and still debating on what career I want to take in life. And with the help of Elements, I can confidently say that I want to pursue environmental science, especially with something with wildfires and ecology. As you saw that video, I was that person who was able to participate in my first prescription burn. And as someone who's interested in fire ecology, that was a monumental experience that I would have never had without Elements. And I've been able to communicate and connect with so many amazing people here in our community who are dedicated to preserving the environment and just bringing good to all the people. And I'm studying environmental science and I want to transfer to forestry. And I know I have the confidence to work hard and achieve that dream with the help of Elements. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Donna. That's, the board members have any questions or observations they want to share with these three wonderful elements participants?
I just got to add, it's great to see you come and relay the experiences you had, because I know there's dozens more of those experiences that we don't get the opportunity to hear tonight, but it gives us, I think, the board, if I can speak for them, confidence that this program is well thought out and had some positive results. Thank you.
Any other board members? No? Well, I'm just kind of curious, the three of you participants in the program, do you reside here in Butte County, all three of you? So do you feel like you really learned a lot about just not just our district, but Butte County in general, that you probably never had any comprehension of before or anything like that? Was it worth your while? Okay,
Learned a lot about the natives who lived here.
that's extremely important. You're right. You're absolutely right. Well, I can't thank you enough, kids. I think what you're doing is wonderful, and hopefully you'll carry that forward in the rest of your lives, whatever you pursue and do. So, and thank you. Excuse me. Yeah.
So the California Natural Resources Agency grant has concluded, but through talking with Dan and the staff at PRPD, they are supportive of us continuing the program. So got the thumbs up to apply for additional grants. So we just found out on Monday that we were awarded $15,000 from the North Valley Community Foundation through the Aaron Rodgers Fund. So that gives us a little seed money to keep things going. And then the California Natural Resources Agency will have another round of grants. So looking into continuing to get funding to support that. And then also to work in closer, two of the folks here went to Paradise High School, but to partner even more greatly with Paradise High School and the students there, because we really want to have the bulk of our participants be up here on the ridge, since there's less activities here than down in Chico, and serve students from Magalia as well.
It's wonderful, Kelly. I appreciate you updating us on that too. And
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
sorry, I just wanted to include something. I thought it was great. You guys shared your experiences and hear little snippets of it, but to have you come in tonight, I think is meaningful. As good as the slideshow was, what I enjoyed is I'd peek over at you guys and I saw beaming smiles and little memories kindled from what the slideshow presented. With us having this additional funding, we're going to have to shift gears. And I'm just kind of curious if any of you would be willing to help reconstitute what this program might look like with reduced funding, and just some of your ideas and experiences I think are valuable for us on what works. What would you see in a different model? So I'm just kind of curious how that hits you guys as far as helping us out moving forward and developing a new program.
You're not asking for ideas right now. You're just asking.
Willingness to help out, I think more than anything, are you willing to work with Kelly on some ideas and improvements and things that we might do a little bit differently with kind of reduced funding?
I mean, I'll always be trying to contact with Kelly. I'm going to Humboldt next semester, so I will not be able to be here physically to help.
We did
But-
too good of a job. Max is leaving.
I'm going hours away. Yeah, but no, I have a lot of ideas from how much the program has changed since I first joined, and how differently each one has been, and how differently I've seen it affect me and the other people who are participating. And there are some things that have definitely worked, and many things that have not worked. And after thought, I'm able to put together a list and probably give that to Kelly.
Can I add something? Yeah. I myself, I'm currently a student at Butte College and will be here for at least another year. And I am fully dedicated to helping and willingness to participate and add ideas to grow the program further. Because the ideas that I've already worked so far have been very life-changing to me. And I want to contribute and give back to that same community by helping expand these ideas to other people who might not know if this is something that will benefit their mental health or something benefit them into choosing a career that is right for them. So I am more than dedicated to help out.
Said like everything I was gonna say. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for your time.
Oh. Christy? I'm sorry, what? Yeah. Mr. Chair, Christy wanted to ask a question.
Yeah, please do, Christy.
Use the microphone.
She's loud enough. That's not voice. Oh, it's recorded.
I'm just curious, given how impactful you all have felt the program was for you and your experiences in working with grants, you know, a lot of these are kind of incubators for things to come. And one would hope that by having made this investment, the grant administrators would then look at the evaluation that you're preparing currently and give it serious consideration as to how an evolution might help the next generation or a continuation of the program, but in a different way. And I'm just wondering if you've had in any of your interactions with the grant administrators, do you feel like that evaluation that you're preparing right now is going to just go into the void of like, you check the box and it's like a task that's done? Or do you feel like there's a way to kind of move it to the forefront and kind of say, hey, this is not just, you know, ticking the box, like this is really impactful and you should really look at this because maybe additional funding should be directed towards these type of opportunities for youth, not just in our community, but in other communities. So
That's a great question. And I have to say big thank you to Christy, who's been with us the whole way on the back end, dealing with all the grants. So anyway, I'm glad that you got to see it was all worth it. And Sophia too, right there, has helped us out on several trips. They're going to check a box that we did what we said that we were going to do for this round. But if we're able to reapply to the Natural Resources Agency, we can show that we were successful with the first grant. And I know that they don't want to fund programs through grants forever. They want folks, you know, programs become sustainable. And so that's why partnering with PRPD, continuing to partner with Paradise High School, I've been brainstorming with Scott for some other more sustainable funding streams to keep things going. So we won't always have to rely on grants, but that is like for the next foreseeable future till we do have because the students that we're serving, most of them, if not all, are very low income. And so they're like the cost to go out on expeditions and all the equipment and the gear to be outdoors is a lot. But the good news is we have about maybe not, maybe like $50,000 worth of equipment now through the grant that we get to keep here at PRPD. So tents and sleeping bags and cook stoves and everything we need. We were able to accomplish that through the grant. And now it'll cost less to continue the program. But our results will be helpful in securing additional funding and even to the North Valley Community Foundation and potential other local partners. I think that we have a good base to show our success. And again, it's been we could not have done this without PRPD. And so thank you for supporting them. And especially Dan and giving us the thumbs up to keep doing this program, and all the support team. It's been really an honor.
Thank you, Kelly. And thank you, the three of you tonight. Really appreciate you all. Okay. Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, everyone, we're going to move on to the next item on tonight's agenda, which is item 2, which is public comment. This is an item on our agenda as required by state law that offers you as attending members of the public, if you want to wish to speak to the board on anything that's not on tonight's agenda, but you just want to bring to our attention, this is your opportunity to do so. So is there anyone who wishes to speak to a non-agenda item this evening with the board? Okay, we'll say, judging by the silence and the turning of heads, that's not going to happen tonight, so we'll move on to consent agenda. I believe we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 items on tonight's consent agenda. Any board members or staff have any questions or requests that any of those 9 items be possibly pulled off of consent and addressed individually this evening?
I would like to pull 3.6.
3.6, you say?
Yeah, regarding the BCCG agreement.
Okay,
And also, I have questions about the BCOE draft agreement, which, I'm sorry, I didn't get the number. Thank you. But yes, that's correct, 3.6 and 3.4.
3.4 and 3.6, okay. Any other requests? If not, then we could proceed with the remainder of the consent agenda items.
Mr. Chair, I motion to approve the consent agenda minus items 3.4 and 3.6.
Okay, we have a motion's been made to
Second.
approve all the consent agenda items minus those 2 that are pulled. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion. It's been made and seconded. Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call vote on that, please?
Director John Stonebreaker,
Aye.
Director Robert Anderson,
Aye.
Secretary Jolene Levy, Vice Chairperson Steve Rodwick,
Aye.
Chairperson Alma Green. Motion carries with 5 ayes.
Okay, moving on to, we'll take on the first of the 2 that are pulled off of consent. Item 3.4, Butte Office of Education.
Right. So first I want to ask about these dates because it's sort of starting in September of 25. So has PRPD already been providing these expeditions to this date?
We had a previous agreement that went through, I think, July of 25. And so this kind of, they do it by fiscal year. And so they want to make sure that there's no gap in coverage essentially. So even though I think some of the field trips were occurring later after that, they just want to make sure that, you know, from a funding standpoint, there's kind of a seamless connection between the previous agreement and this one that continues on.
This is BCOE's boilerplate, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the other things, other than the peculiar dates that caught my attention, are the contractor is listed as Paradise Park and Recreation District. So that probably needs to be
Yeah.
corrected. And then there's another place where the contractor is filled in as Dan SF rather than the district. So I just wanted to clarify that we are contracting and you are, the district manager will be the representative rather than contracting your own personal
Can
capacity.
you tell me what pages that might be on? I see, I'm circling the errors
Yeah.
on the park and recreation part, but
Right, so on 25, it says name of contractor, Dan FSF, or FSF with not enough Fs. So I just wanted to make sure that the district is contracting to provide these services to the students through BCOE.
yeah.
Okay, right,
That is correct. So we'll,
okay, right.
we'll make those changes.
Recognize that you are our representative in this
That's right.
contract. Okay, that's what we wanted to clarify. Thank you for all of that.
Yeah, thanks for catching it.
Where is that at?
It's on page 25, Sarah.
Yeah, so I have the Park and Rec circled, and then what was the other?
Oh, on 25, I guess, of the total packet, it says name of contractor, has my misspelled name on there. But that's supposed to be, I could show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
25.
So this is,
So based on that discussion, do we want to entertain a motion to, with those suggested corrections? Or do you have more?
Yeah, recommended action.
very well, then I would authorize the district manager to finalize the agreement given the suggested corrections.
I didn't hear you make a motion. I heard you say that you're authorizing some.
Try again. I move to authorize the district manager to finalize the agreement with the corrections as stated.
I'll second.
Was that Steve that seconded?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's just moved and been seconded, and I'm going to just pose for clarification. The intent of the motion is that the board authorizes this to proceed with those corrections. Does it not? In other words,
Yes, rather than in my personal capacity.
right, thank you. I just want a clarification, that's all for the record. Okay, so Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Director John Stonebreaker,
Aye.
Director Robert Anderson,
Aye.
Secretary Jolene Levy, Vice Chairperson Steve Rodwick,
Aye.
Chairperson Alma Green.
Mr. Stormwater, I appreciate that.
Motion carries with 5 ayes.
Item 3.6, let's proceed with discussion on that, please.
So the BCCG formed itself. Supposedly they were supposed to start in 2018, but something got in their way. And then the current incarnation of the group was formed sort of behind closed doors, and we found out about it after the fact. We Upper Ridge citizens found out about it after the fact, and had a very difficult time barging our way into these meetings. So I have some skepticism about the way that the group has undertaken business to this point. Had some conversations with their administrative group about the need to include groups such as Cohasset Community Association, Forest Ridge Community Association, Upper Ridge Community Council. And although they acted interested, that really hasn't taken place yet. So I understand that the function of the group is mainly to get the entities that have the budget to do landscape scale vegetation modification, we'll say, which the small community associations certainly don't have, together in one place. And what we heard at their last meeting is that they're trying to get together to have a grant application coming from the entirety of the group to try to decide what's most important in Butte County. And I have, maybe somebody here can enlighten me about this, but specifically with regards to naming the district manager as the voting representative, that we know that PRPD was invited into the formation of this group where the resident associations were not invited. And we know that the district manager has been attending. I often see him on the cameras when I'm zooming in. And I don't know how many of these other signatories have made the same delegation. So I wanted to get some answers about that before approving the recommendation as written. Thank you.
Yeah, I could go through some of those. Actually, on the membership, there is on page 30 has a listing of the entities that are involved right now. So I think one thing, and this is kind of in its infancy, the state is moving towards this idea of a collaborative model for areas so that there's not competition within a certain area. So for example, Butte County conceivably could have, multiple different proposals that may have be competing for the same slice of pie. And so the idea is to kind of work together to see where areas that there can be some collaboration and then also some sharing of resources and maybe even better projects. So there's not a one agency that's next door to Forest Service land that may also have some projects going next to somebody else. So that is to have those conversations and work out some priorities. I think it's worthwhile to note that there's, as a collaborative, it's and the MOU, it's not an obligation that you can still have dissent. You can have some, a different direction on it. But the idea is that it would be a consensus driven opportunity. I suspect, and I don't know this for sure on the other groups' participation, that it's really geared towards some of either the groups that are doing work on the ground or some of the larger agency landowners and so forth. And some of those other groups, I think, certainly have an opportunity to participate, I imagine, in the future. It's just kicking off right now. For us to kind of have a voice at the table, it's essentially wanted, the voting here is essentially giving the opportunity when they review projects, when they look at opportunities for priorities, that we, as a district, have a voice on that body. So that may include some of the entities that you're talking about. We could carry that information forward, I think. I don't think this is going to be a quick process to work through these things. I'm hoping that when they have an item that comes up, there's time to deliberate. We can bring it back to our board for consideration if we need that kind of direction.
That's what I was hoping to hear, that the board would have some influence in directing our vote rather than having the district manager make those decisions without direction. So there are certain timelines that things have been significantly pushed back at the state to get this next cycle of grant funding. And we expect at their meeting in a couple of weeks, we'll hear from the administrative group about the grant proposal that they're trying to put together. And then the various signatories will have, there hasn't really been like a contentious vote to this point. Everything has really been by consensus because the individual entities have been acting sort of on their own and collaborating through the hub site. Sorry if some of this is too technical. But I just wanted to ensure that just as, you know, as the Rancheria makes sure that their environmental director is getting some sort of direction before voting on behalf of the Rancheria or something like that, that there's some opportunity for input from the policymakers regarding this. So I certainly support having this agency formally sign the MOU if we have not already done so. And I just wanted to have some clarification about how that vote was going to be used. If there were to be a contentious vote about which proposal the collaborative group puts forward in order to not have competition between entities.
I think also, just one thing else to point out is I do get good direction from the board on already initiated efforts. So there's some things that I can speak to already if we have an initiative already underway, that way I can carry that forward. But I think I'm hoping that they have enough of a process that it may not be a formal vote at the board or need to be. I suspect that it's something that's elevated. These are going to be things that have a pretty short timeline. If it's a proposal from the state, they usually wait years to develop guidelines and give you 2 months to come up with a proposal. So I think there may be some things that I'll share with the board for feedback. And if there's areas that we need to delve into, we can possibly do it.
Well, I think
A special meeting or something.
The board would appreciate your sharing in that context. Absolutely. In fact, that's I think I'm not speaking for the entire board, but I think that's our preferred method when we approach something like this. But not myself being familiar with the history of this collaborative group and how often they meet and how often they focus on grant cycles. It's hard for me to speak to that issue by issue, but I like the idea that if we have representation and that you, as our representative, you're representing us, a full board for this district. So you will, when the time is appropriate, you'll come back to us if need be. And advise us.
These, by the way, are generally, sometimes they've had some that are monthly, they're generally quarterly. I'll offer this too, that some of the meetings I wasn't able to attend. Actually, Director Roderick went to one of the field trips, for example.
Good.
So there's opportunity, I think, for education for our board. There's an upcoming tour, by the way, Mr. Anderson, in Concal, I think next month. That maybe if you have time or inclination, you may want to participate.
I believe that's April 23rd, actually.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I could share that with you at time, Robert.
Okay, any further dialogue on this? I think we brought some good things to attention to everyone's edification, so perhaps we can entertain a motion, an action on this? Anyone?
Are we giving direction to staff here?
Well, the way it's structured is to authorize.
Yeah, but just in the context of the district manager as our voting representative, are we giving, as a board, are we giving direction to staff?
You're giving direction to me to sign the MOU on behalf of
Okay.
the district and directing the district manager as our voting representative with the understanding that we dialogued this evening
Okay.
in that manner. That's my understanding anyway. I don't know about the rest of you.
seeing the head nods from my colleagues, I would move to authorize the board chair to sign the memorandum of understanding and name the district manager as the voting representative.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. There's a motion that's been seconded to proceed with the board chair to sign the MOU and naming the district manager as our voting representative with this group, and based on our dialogue understanding of how we'll proceed. So, Madam Clerk, will we have a roll call vote, please?
Director John Stonebreaker, Director Robert Anderson,
Aye.
Secretary Jolene Levy, Vice Chairperson Steve Rodwick, and Chairperson Alma Green. Motion carries with 5 ayes.
Good. Thank you, everyone. That concludes consent agenda items that we addressed, both on consent and those that were pulled off of consent. So, moving on to item 4 on tonight's board agenda are committee reports. And I just want to point out to all the board members that you should have received a short report from each committee that has recently met since our last board meeting, and you have that in your packet. I saw it electronically or in your hard copy. Do the board members have any questions of either committee, the Rec and Park Committee or the Finance Committee at this time, based on their report? Some questions? Apparently, we'll just accept those reports as submitted, right? We don't have to take any formal action. So we'll move on. Old business, item 5.1. Accept requests for bid responses, Paradise Pool repair and resurfacing. This one's a really detailed one. So, District Manager, FCF, you want to present this to us, please, in conjunction with the staff reports and so
Yeah.
on?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So there's a brief staff report, and we provide some supplemental information, including links to the original request for bids and the actual respondents bid as well. So just to get some process and language in there on page 41, by the way, has a little bit of the process. We laid it out more fully last time with the notice and the requirements there. And in here, we use the term responsive bid. So I wanted to kind of go through what that means in the context of this bid. That means basically they checked all the boxes for what's required. For us on this one, there was a mandatory site walk. We did receive one bid on it, and they did complete that mandatory site walk. They addressed the bid and the instructions. They filled in the paperwork that was required, was applicable. They did provide, by the way, their contractor's license that has been checked on the Secretary of State website, Department of Labor Relations, and the licensing lookup sites. They're in good standing on their licensing. And they also provided a notarized bid bond on there as well. Interestingly, this was a contractor that did work on the pool. We're not sure on the date, but sometime 20 or 30 years ago, that same contractor did original work at the Paradise Pool, and it's held up well. Is a good sign on that. I think perhaps, I don't know about board members, but a little bit of a sticker shock that we had looking at the dollar amount, but considering the size of the pool and the work involved, it's essentially going to be approximately 8 of the contractor's staff working on site for about a month. So you times that times prevailing wage, some of the materials, it starts adding up pretty quickly. Just to, I don't know, alleviate some of that sticker shock, or maybe it was expected, I reached out to CARD and Feather River as well on recent work they might have done with pools. The PV pool, for example, for CARD, that's the one at Bidwell Junior. Smaller pool than ours, different material, concrete work. It's about $550K is what they spent on that. Talking with Feather River, they had a two projects. not quite apples to apples. They're Palermo pool, which is about 300K. And then a much more, I think, extensive repair refurbishment with their Nilsson pool. And I believe that was well over $1 million for that. But I think it was quite a bit of work on it. The plus side on the refiberglassing, it should have an expected life of roughly 20 to 30 years. Roughly, that's how long it lasted this last time. Maybe longer than that. We had a series, and we're probably going to get used to this language here. I know some of our board members are used to bid language, but some of the board members may not be. We had our base bid, which was basically the basic repairs, and then a couple of add-ons. So the add-ons are, consider them electives potentially. So we had our base bid on this project was $543,720. And that's a scope of work to do the whole pool and replacing cracks and so forth. So put it in our bid notes, essentially an as-new condition. So we're looking at a really, finished product at the end there. We had 2 options for a warranty, a standard 1-year warranty and an optional 5-year warranty. The 5-year warranty would be extended, consider it like the appliance extension on your home warranty. That would run $51,490.
How much would that?
Part of the base bid.
Oh, it's part of the base bid?
Yeah.
It's
Standard, industry standard.
yeah, I didn't pick up on that. So that's included in the base bid.
Correct. Yeah.
So if we set just that only, we'd get a 1-year warranty.
1-year warranty. And just to speak to that, I think at this point I would recommend that we just stay with the 1-year warranty. 51,000 covers a fair amount of repair. If there's something catastrophic, we're going to see it within a year. And then, I don't think we'll get the value out of that 5-year necessarily, but it's a gamble, right? If something catastrophic opens up on day 366 after it's been installed, it may be worth it, but that's my recommendation at this point. The third item, and there's a series here. There's 6 items here. So on alts, tile replacement. So that would be instead of painting, it would be depth markers, water line, deck markings, and no diving. We have some of that in the pool right now. We'd recommend it's tiled. The cost of that additional features $4,875. Would recommend that item. And then we have 2 that's an either or. So one that would be a requirement because of code. We have outdated drain covers, and that would require 14 replaced at $495. Or I think what we'll recommend is an autofill system. So that would eliminate the need for that. That's $14,450. The reason for that is 2 things. Our pumps can never run out of water. So we have to manually check the pool, which we do on a regular basis. It's part of our routine on the morning. Is one of the first things our crew checks, but having it an autofill is kind of a basic thing, and it'd be much more costly to replace our pump system if it was if there was cavitation in that system. So would recommend that expenditure of $14,450. The last one is a performance and payment bond. So this is related to if the contractor, for whatever reason, is unable to complete the work, it's a bond to protect the district to complete the work and pay all subcontractors after that. Its cost is $16,612. I think for this size project, it is cost of doing business, and we'd recommend carrying that performance and payment bond as part of the package. I know it's a lot of numbers thrown at you guys, but the concept is basically the base bid with a couple of those items that we mentioned: tile replacement, autofill system, and performance and payment bond would be recommended.
So based on that recommendation that you've just described, can you give us a running total? Or what that equates to? I don't think
If,
we have it.
if you stall, I will be able to.
Well, it might be helpful for all the board
Sure.
members to know.
Sure. Let me do it real quickly.
While
And there's
you-
some other questions where I can.
While you're doing that, I
Yeah.
just want to point out to my fellow board members that this was long overdue, this pool. We got more than the average number of years for that pool's life, big time. I mean,
One thing I'll point out too, that the, and this might fold in, it doesn't show up in the bid, but we did have a commitment to have it completed in a short period of time. And we're talking about, less than 6 weeks. That gets us, if we work on this next couple of days, it barely gets us to our first swim lesson. So we're able to, if all goes well, and the contractor indicates that it looks like it right now, that we could open for our normal swim season.
well, that would be a big positive if that was to occur. And kind of indirectly related to that, I'm kind of curious. I think I saw the documentation in here that the contractors, I don't know if it's his license or whatever, something is good until just the end of June of this calendar year. I'm not throwing this out as something I'm fearful of, but if for some reason we approved all this and let's say the contractor didn't start until mid to late May, and he's thinking it's going to take 5 weeks, that could run towards the end of his contracted licensing period. I don't know, but I don't think it's something we have to concern ourselves with, but
I think it would be upon them to avoid liquidated damages to get that in before their, whatever license they have expired.
Yeah, just in researching on their license and standing at the DIR website, it renews every year. And so it's at a regular cadence.
automatically it renews?
No,
Oh.
I assume they have to go through the
Right.
reapplication process,
Right.
but it's not that they've been in business and it's expiring soon. It's just a recurring phenomenon that seems to be common within the industry.
Okay.
You know, I'll speak to other certifications that we've seen, and I think it happens in a number of fields too, right? You can satisfy all the requirements, but it doesn't kick in until, you know, that one expires and the next one kicks in. Because otherwise you're always constantly less than a year on your license.
Just a sidebar question. Did we ever get any satisfaction from the previous contractor who did the intermediate resurfacing that was left
We did not.
substandard?
We did not. Yeah, we made several attempts. The offers were, if we provided additional funding to do more work, that it would be satisfied. Had no interest in pursuing it.
Called good money after bad.
Yeah, so I think this is a clean installation this way. The other work has no bearing on it. It's unfortunate that we got only a year of a little over a year, I guess, on the previous work. But I think this appears credible, and we've had good participation from the contractor so far on this. So our recommendation here would be to accept that low bid, authorize district manager to complete the agreement, related construction documents. There's quite a few. If you look at the webpage, we gave links, by the way, but there's a series of them. I would also like to add, I think, making that conditional upon legal review and, well, actually I had review of licenses, but we've already done that. So I'll scratch that on my notes here.
And
Like, conditional upon legal review. I'm done.
do you have what the cumulative total amount is? then?
Yes. I was ready a moment ago, but I didn't want to speak out of turn. $579,657. And by the way, we do have funding that's been identified on our CIP that's within that amount. We would come back to the board, however, to look at, we would want to partition out to different funding sources. And so that would be a different, well, actually, we'll probably bring it to the finance committee first. And then look at the different pots of money that we have available for it to kind of share that funding obligation. But we do have adequate budgeted from our capital improvement projects. So just as a blanket rule, it's there. We just have to partition out which fund we want to draw it from, if that makes sense.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Individual board members, you have any further questions or?
I was going to ask, how is the district progressing with the inventory of assets and the planned replacement or maintenance schedule?
That is going to be folded into our master plan effort, which hasn't been set up yet. So what we hope to do is it's probably kicked off in this next fiscal year. That will be one of the items that will be in there. A thorough inventory and a replacement schedule will be built into it.
As I mentioned when this had come up previously, Paradise Pines POA has our own pool, and last year they had to do the planned resurfacing, but that money had been sort of socked away year after year. And we know that, Mark has been here and said, every year there's something new with the pool that we have to spend money on, and we just budget that we're going to have to spend a certain amount of money. So obviously 579,000 is more than the typical amount. And if we can expect this is going to last at least 15 years, even if it doesn't last quite as long as the previous resurfacing did last, it doesn't seem, that when I looked into this, and this is not my field, but it seemed as though this was a bit high, and I appreciate that you did talk to nearby districts to see what sort of quotes they were getting, even if it wasn't for the same fiberglass resurfacing treatment. It's the timing is unfortunate that we have only one bid, and if we don't do this right now, it interferes with the swim season. So, it would have been nice if things could have been accelerated. We were still trying to get some satisfaction for the previous contractor that unfortunately forestalled this process.
Any further discussion amongst board members? Okay, at this point in time, we'll open this agenda item to the audience. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak to this old business agenda item 5.1 about the pool? Okay, judging by the silence, then we'll bring it back to the board, and the board needs to entertain possibly an action on this. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chair, I move to accept the low bid and authorize the district manager to complete the agreement and related construction documents with the contractor upon legal review.
Okay, motion has been made. Is there a second? Okay, thank you, board. Motion's been made and seconded to accept the low bid and authorize the district manager to complete agreement and related construction documents with the contractor, subject to our district council's legal review. Madam Clerk, will we have a roll call vote, please?
Director John Stonebreaker.
Aye.
Director Robert Anderson.
Aye.
Secretary Jolene Levy. Vice Chairperson Steve Rodwick. And Chairperson Alma Green. Motion carries with 5 ayes.
Okay, thank you. The next item is 5.2, a 2026 review of our strategic plan. Mr. Efsef, you want to kick this off for us, please, for discussion?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair and directors. So this is something we adopted a plan in 2024, and it's like most general plan or most strategic plans have some general objectives and goals. We thought it was a good idea for us to be able to translate to our staff clear objectives and then communicate back to the public on how we're doing. So not wait for year 5 to start thinking about what we've done in that time period. On page 42 has a little summary table on the count of the items, objectives per year, and then kind of functional areas. So we had different areas of different goals. So it gives you a count as to how many objectives or how many goals might have been in a certain area, and then a total percent on it. I think the important part to see how we're doing is on the next page, which shows progress. So, there's 9 of the 87 that haven't been started yet. 33 are in progress. We're about the midpoint of our cycle here, so that makes sense. Partially completed about 20. Some of those are items that are essentially complete, but we keep it on there because they're kind of annual goals, for example. And then completed about pushing up to almost a third is completed. And then the other ones on there are dropped off pretty quickly. The eye test for you starts on page 44. It does print out, and I have to say it's not much better electronically or reprinted out. We could give you guys another one, but if you want a legal sized version, which is incrementally larger, I do have that available. But the idea on this, I think, is really just to get a sense of what we're doing and accomplishments so far. I think in particular, board members seasoned board members may be interested in the notes part to see what we're doing. So if there's a particular area that you're interested in, go on that. We asked for, approval on this update. There's mostly been a few dates have changed is the majority of changes. There's no substantial changes on the objectives. There aren't any. Behind the scenes, there's another column in here. This has assignment. Some of those have been reassigned to different staff, but I think from a district-wide standpoint, the objectives are just updated by dates. And with that, you'll see on the columns, on the notes page, quite a few places will say where that the date's been revised. So we're trying to be transparent about what's been changed from the last round. Be happy to discuss any of these. I think what I would tend to look at this is a good blueprint for how we get stuff done around here. So if there's items that come up, I think that's an ongoing, in progress work. We're going to have these kind of underway. If there's an area that board members curious about, by all means, come and talk to me, and we'll get answers and give you an update on that. It doesn't have to happen tonight or here, but I just wanted to kind of give you a sense as to some of the priorities. Some of these are coming, you'll see quite clearly some of them, almost all of them, show up at the board. So you'll see progress on it. I'm looking at one item here, for example, on the Nexus study. So that's going to be coming up to our finance committee and then our board coming up here. One thing to keep in mind on timing is once this goes through the next 2027, 28 is when we'll take a hard look on what we're doing, and then meet with our board. Our staff will do a retreat and see if we can reformulate, reconstitute our strategic plan, and then we'll kind of go look under the hood and give some of the objectives a look at too. But I think it arms board members at the end of the 5-year period with really good information on how we've met some of the goals that we set out. So be happy to answer any questions about it. Just want to give you an overview on it and the open invitation to take a look at it.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you, Dan. And you should have probably planned this out later in the beginning, but the actual strategic plan as adopted is on our website.
It is.
Right? So district boards can avail themselves to there.
Yeah.
Also include, if it's approved tonight, this update, this change.
Yeah, the work plan update
Yeah,
will be on
yeah.
there. We did that last year as well.
So we can access it there any time once it's in place. Okay. And actually, the public can too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, okay.
One thing I wanted to point out too is a lot of times, I think for organizations, this strategic plan, they'll name 5 or 10 goals. It sits on the shelf or it sits on their webpage. They bring it out for marketing purposes. I heard something from one of our staff the other day that, and I'll have to test this. I won't test it tonight, but they said ask that person's staff on what they're doing, what strategic plan goal it relates to. So these are becoming embodied with the organization. So if somebody's doing work, it's inevitably showing up on our work plan that leads into our strategic plan. So there's a nice connection there that people are starting to work from. So I just want to share that with the board.
Any more discussion?
Just to follow up on some of the the narrative here. So do we expect an update on the Nexus study at our Finance Committee meeting on April 16th? Okay.
Yeah.
The clerk is nodding yes. And I wanted to ask about the decision that has apparently been made to postpone the strategic retreat from the year 2027 until the year 2028. That's the way it appears here. So
Let me clarify that. So if you look at goal B4,
right.
yeah, it says by 2012/31/27.
Right. So
So-
previously there had been plans to have that occur in the year 2027, and now it seems as though a decision has been made that will be forestalled until at least the year 2028.
No, we're still looking at having that retreat beforehand. That's
Okay.
completed by that date. So there's a little bit of lag time between reviewing it. The next plan, because it's a 24 adoption, our next plan is actually 29 is when we have to have it in place. So we're looking at, accelerating by a year essentially.
Mhm.
So, I think that sequence is fine. And it's not, I'd have to look what the original one is, but I think we're looking at, oh, I'm sorry, it's a 2030 strategic plan
Mhm.
update. So we're on track for that.
And for what it's worth, on the common staff, we actually are not only on track, but given the extensive workload that's underway right now with staff, I think you need to be all commended. I mean, I know some organizations are not making this type of track record on their strategic planning efforts, but just wanted to share that with the rest of the board.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Did you have something else you wanted to say?
I don't know if it's all pertinent to this agenda item, so I can take it up later.
Very good. Is there any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none, then we'll open it to the public. This is on the agenda this evening. Does anyone in the audience wish to speak to this agenda item? Well, judging by the silence, apparently not. So I think we have a recommended action to approve the updated work plan as presented. Is the board inclined to want to agree with that and make that a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the updated work plan.
Okay, is there a second? Aye. What does that mean?
He asked a question.
Okay, thank you, Joey. Second, Madam Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Director John Stonebreaker,
Aye.
Director Robert Anderson,
Aye.
Secretary Jolene Levy, yeah. Vice Chairperson Steve Rodwick,
Aye.
Chairperson Alma Green. Motion carries with 5 ayes.
Since there's none scheduled this evening, so item 7 on tonight's agenda, 7.1 neighbor to neighbor update, oral. I guess that's going to be presented to us by staff. Is that correct?
Christy and Sophia walking up. I know that's been a big theme for us, the neighbor to neighbor one. This is actually a pretty big deal on milestone. It gives us a chance to kind of catch our breath and recognize some of the accomplishments that have happened. And just give you a snapshot. I think they have good numbers now, solid numbers. They were always in flux over the past year here. But now we kind of have the final part of it wrapping up. And I think importantly for us, and this is going to continue, I think after tonight, is us talking about next steps and how to nurture these little seedlings we might have planted with the help of the state of California. So kind of help get these ideas in our regular program. So Christy and Sophia.
Good evening, directors. Sorry, that's scratchy. I just wanted to start by reading the quote. We have several really good quotes from people that really demonstrate that these series of events that were made available through this grant funding was impactful and indeed met the goals of the grant, which is very satisfying. after putting in a lot of work. After having participated in several of these events, I've gotten to know many of my neighbors on a more personal level. So not for nothing, but getting people to interact with one another was was one of the principal goals of the grant. Oops. So this was grant funding made available to entities throughout the state of California. It was a passion project from the governor, and he assigned some money to fund this grant through the Office of the Governor, California Volunteers. We were the only special district to be awarded funding. We had City of Long Beach, Riverside, San Francisco, and some other big players. Yeah, some really big players. And we were little paradise, but we got $750,000, which is really a lot for our community. Although we're very dispersed, and so that also provides some challenges. But it really was meant to combat the epidemic of loneliness, which the Surgeon General, I believe it was in 2023, really shone a light on that this was an epidemic across the country and really a problem, in part a result from COVID, but also just differing structures and layouts in urban planning. Whereas people used to sit on their front porch a lot of people now gravitate towards their backyards and spend time there with their intimate family or friend groups. And so you have less interactions with people walking their dog past your house, or watching the kids skateboard or bike up and down the street. So it's just those little changes are subtle, but they accumulate and add to this kind of rift in society where people tend to isolate in their little social groups and don't interact as voluntarily or as often as we might once have. So the point of the grant was to enhance social connections and improve mental health, build more resilient neighborhoods, and then also introduce disaster preparedness ideas. So here we wanted to give you a little digital Dan, the digital Dan, the district manager. It really encapsulates, this was footage that was put together by the California Volunteers Group, their videographer, but based on interviews with people in our community, our district manager, and then some content and imagery from our drone footage and whatnot.
I'm Dan Efsef. I'm the district manager for the Paradise Recreation Park District, and welcome to Belly Park. They had a campfire. This is one of the places that was kind of an impromptu shelter in place within this pavilion here. Set in motion for us just a lot of things about how important parks are for the community, their role during emergencies. The neighbor-to-neighbor funding has helped our local community. It's not only allowed us to have those connections to different organizations, we have a whole rich suite of different events. So there's a lot of opportunity for neighbors to get out on a repeated basis, do some art with each other, build a house, come out, do a nature walk, or do a nature and forest therapy guided trips. We even incorporating what we call a pyrotherapy. So folks that are very triggered by fires, even smoke. But so just getting to know their overall infrastructure around them and getting out, the neighbor to neighbor program kind of amplifies some of that sense of community and connection is so important. I think this funding's allowed us to do kind of next level on putting neighbors in connection with each other. So we have folks that are better equipped to handle emergency events. If something comes up, they're sharing information with their neighbors. So what is neighbor to neighbor? I think we're finding that out right now. I think we're starting with this idea that we're connected. But, a big part of this is trying to combat the epidemic of loneliness as a whole host of different effects on health and mental well-being. And so we're kind of, I think, exploring that now with a different type of medicine, and that's connecting people with each other.
Thanks, Connor, for navigating us through this. So, $750,000 is very generous. It's an amazing opportunity. We wanted to dive fully in and do everything for everyone. but we couldn't do it with just our staff. We recognized that early on that we were going to need some partners. We were able to do a lot ourselves, but we also kind of understood through some of the pre-survey data that we got back that people were looking for opportunities to collaborate with entities that had already established trust, that had already some interest in third spaces, and also that they were already kind of delivering on a program or event that, you know, was kind of their wheelhouse, and that by partnering with them and supporting them, we empower the entire communities and the entire community, and kind of demonstrate the idea of being a good neighbor. And what can we share with you that then builds up your part of the neighborhood that then better serves all of us. So we did hire some staff specifically for neighbor to neighbor events that were for opportunities that the district led. But a lot of our opportunities were also supported by our partner organizations.
Yeah, so looking at, like Christy said, the biggest thing with the neighbor to neighbor grant was looking at climate action, disaster preparedness, and volunteerism. So with that being said, building a volunteer community, right up my alley in terms of the volunteer program, but looking at doing it on a bigger scale through the neighbor to neighbor grant, with additional funding as well as through partners, all to increase the bandwidth of instant gratification and connection, whether it's the top left photo there, looking at Hope Plaza and doing some plantings. There's nothing better than being able to see work by putting a plant in the ground. Or off to the right is the Make a Difference Day with Love Paradise up at the top, and out there doing fuel reduction, looking at disaster preparedness and climate action, both in a double combo, by taking action that day to help remove invasive plants for fuel reduction, or looking at thinning some bay out there. And all of this accounts to having a sense of belonging by doing it with a group of other individuals who are all a part of the same project to look at pushing towards one goal. And with a lot of these activities and volunteerism all helping to lead to a community of healing for Normandy to a certain extent. There really is no normal when all of our lives are so different, but looking at being able to get out there together with the community and being able to focus on a project together. So that way there's a lot that goes on with all of our lives, but at the end of the day, being able to get out there and focus on one thing together that benefits the community, but also the environment at the same time, especially when it comes to volunteerism, the beauty of looking at specifically local projects that can help support, build up our community, not only in an instant by putting a plant in the ground, but also looking at long-term, building connections and building a community. So looking at the project snapshot, the numbers of the world, with events from when we had started the grant in June 1st, 2024, all the way to March 31st, which just like about a week ago or so, we had about 671 events, and that's including direct events that we had put on through PRPD, the staff, but also including our partners as well too. And most definitely shout out to our partners, because at the end of the day, being able to have them help support us, we're helping support them to do it together and really make these numbers possible at the end of the day. And within those events and or activities or programs or workshops that were provided from partners, the total number of participants that were able to enjoy these wide variety of options were 13,202 participants. Pretty big number going from there. And then overall volunteer hours throughout the whole grant, accounting for our partners and ours as well too, were 2,095. And looking at within those numbers, whether they again were workshops, events, activities, a one-time or reoccurring options, there was a wide variety of them. And starting on the left side, one of them was the back to school fair, and all the photos on the top and the bottom account for like the back to school fair and per each activity. But looking at the back to school fair was put on through the Ridge Era Youth Network, and the Parks Department through Neighbor to Neighbor was one organization there, along with Boys and Girls Club, Youth for Change, and a variety of others providing resources for kids and or families as well for like backpacks, food. We had put on down at that bottom left one with those young group of kids was looking at a photo booth. We had a volunteer come out with some professional lighting, a backdrop, and it being able to provide a photo shoot so they could have fun, put on any type of design, or just take a back to school photo at the same time. All for free, of course, through the Neighbor to Neighbor grant. Anything underneath that realm was free of charge. And another option that was different from any back to school fair was the Wildfire Safety Summit. Has been happening for a while through the Butte County Fire Safe Council, but we were able to have Neighbor to Neighbor help fund it. So that way it can provide also more connection opportunities, putting a variety of fire leaders in one room along with other environmentalists, other individuals who do outreach, all being able to get together and increase the neighbor to neighbor connection. And another option as well through the Habitat for Humanity was wall signing community event. Like in the earlier video that highlighted the digital Dan component, but having individuals come out and have a variety of options for building the house and literally getting out there and helping each other and providing that funding, but also too, this specifically highlights the wall signing where individuals, and you can kind of tell in that bottom photo, there's someone in the back of their hand writing, but people were able to go out, have a moment to introduce their new neighbors, but also leave a message of hope and a message of kindness out there. So that way these individuals can feel their community coming together in their new home that's about to be created. And the last one is the Immerse Art Workshop put on by Sky Cave Art. They were able to put on a very interesting, I would say, workshop. And the immersive art one specifically was a multiple step series merging their stitching stories with woodwork art, all so that way it can build up to the immersive art component where all these skills learned through other sessions of the art can be able to be put into one immersive workshop, all led by Sky Cave Art. And a variety more. Looking at highlighting the Magalia Easter egg hunt up in Magalia at the community center there. A variety of kids, families, all ages out there, being able to just enjoy the Easter egg hunt. And down the bottom left corner was Paint Parties by Dawn, another element to add to the art world. And that's the biggest thing, was trying to lean on partners so that way they can do what they're best at and provide a great step-by-step learning session for painting, encouragement, having people talk and mingle while they are painting. And Dawn was able to lead a variety of those. And Senior Golden Gatherings, that did come in towards the end, and this one is highlighted at the Paradise Community Center. And this photo right here was looking at our senior drop-in hours where there was a community puzzle that is now going, and that one right there is now finally completed, so we're on to the next. And that one surprisingly got done in 2.5 sessions. So people are interested in puzzles and trying to really figure out what could we do to provide for our seniors here in the community, whether it's coffee and refreshments, or whether it is board games or a puzzle or even a crafting option. So it was a step that is first started, but more to come most definitely at the Paradise Community Center. And looking at Lake Concow, the campground, there was a community family day out there. So not only looking at being in Paradise with these options, but also trying to get out to Concow and having individuals over there help support. And off the top of my head, I can't remember, was that? Thank you. From the Ground Up had helped lead that one. by putting out, they had like an aerial session for kids. They're doing kind of like that egg toss game. So being able to get out and not only enjoy each other, but at the same time too, get out there and enjoy the beautiful campground and the lake that is all right there in a back door. In the bottom right is the Paradise Stronger Say It With Flowers. These ladies were able to come in, and of course, gents could be there too, but it looks like it was more ladies, if that. But even if then, they were able to start with an all variety of different flowers in a bouquet set that they could have. So first starting, of course, all of these with an icebreaker, getting people kind of out of that first awkward moment of where do I go? Who do I talk to? And after that, being able to then create something beautiful, not only with conversation, but at the same time too, a bouquet that they were able to take home and give to their neighbor. That was one of the biggest things too, or give to a loved one or a friend, and just trying to spread that kindness. Oh, and here we have Make a Difference Day, the Tiny But Mighty volunteers helping out at Billy Park. And this one was one activity of many through the Love Paradise Days with multiple different project host sites all around town. And the Us as the Parks was one of many focusing at Billy Park on the Fondview Lookout Trail. And this was the other one that was going in parallel as well. For that day, I was helping lead this one. Well, shout out to Butte County Fire Safe Council for helping lead the other one. But this one was looking at tree care out at Noble Park. And the one great thing about the Make a Difference Days is that has been around for over a decade, but being able to combo that with a variety of youth to community members to California Conservation Corps, being able to put all these people together so that way we can look at not only diving into why our environment or trees could be important through climate action, but also at the end day being able to get a project done together as well. And then I'll slide it back over to Christy for impacts and insights.
So this is where we get graded on our effort and whether or not we're successful, because this is the feedback that we've received from participants of the program. We didn't get as many as we'd hoped. There's about 93 folks that responded. So not a ton, considering there's 13,202 people, I believe, that participated in events. Although those are probably not all unique people, but I mean, there's a lot of people that participated. We didn't get that many to participate in the survey, unfortunately. But from what we did get, it really demonstrates a high degree of trust in their neighbors and faith that their neighborhood is getting better, that they belong there. There's some outliers, which is unfortunate. And, it just demonstrates if we had a little more time and a little more money, could we do a little bit more and make that, that outlier feel more welcome and included in their neighborhood and that sense of belonging. But I had some arrows next to the ones that I thought were really important. I feel connected to my neighborhood. That's 77 folks out of the 93. That's pretty good. And the others are, meh, but not a lot of outliers in the other extreme. I'm hopeful about the future of this neighborhood. That's important. Also, how many neighbors' contact information do you have? The majority said yes, which is really important, as we know in an emergency that 95% of people self-evacuate or evacuate with the help of a friend or a neighbor. So those connections are incredibly important. And then some of the quotes that we had, I couldn't put in all the ones that I wanted to, but there was a lot about people feeling like they're seeing a trend, that it is progressively getting, their neighborhoods are progressively getting more connected, and that they are getting to know more people, that they've noticed when people are in trouble or hurt or sick, and that they're showing up to help, which is lovely. I think in this time when people feel somewhat, there's a reason that people get isolated, and it's not always because of, they spend more time in the backyard. It's also a lot of social media intake, news intake that might make other people feel a little bit scary, or like if you don't already know them, maybe you don't want to know them. So I love that there seemed to be a trend in the responses of people who did respond with text to the prompts in the survey, that there does seem to be like a growing appetite for getting out and meeting other people and helping one another. So, you want me to read any of those? I know the font's really tiny, but I don't want to take up too much of your time either.
And overall key takeaways from the grant, being about almost 2 years working with it, connecting with the community and as well as our partners. In having strong partnerships are key to the program's sustainability beyond grant funding. And like they had said earlier, looking at planting the seed and tending to that little sapling, as Dan says, because moving forward, many partners have expressed that they would love to continue the partnership and how to make it happen. The biggest thing and the greatest support from California volunteers in the Neighbor to Neighbor grant was being able to offer the opportunities for free. So looking at next steps and what that could look like. The biggest thing was reoccurring opportunities in a familiar community space, aka the third space that California volunteers really focus on, significantly improved engagement and outcomes. Being able to have those reoccurring activities at a very set time and or at a community place really helped that consistency for participants to show up each time, whether it was reoccurring participants or new participants. And overall, offering a broad mix of those activities really helped reveal like what community members were interested in. That was the biggest thing for us, is trying to provide a wide variety of diverse options to all folks in the world, whether they love being in their backyard gardening with some soil therapy, or whether they loved being at those bigger events like a Johnny Appleseed to connect to so many different people on each level.
Yeah, totally. I'm sorry. I just wanted to also communicate that as part of our responsibility in serving the grant, we met quarterly as all awardees. There was a quarterly convening, they called it. And so the grant administrator would lead usually a speaker that had something to say about some inspirational, hey, we are doing this in our community and it's working, or just basically learning opportunities for the awardees to understand, research that's happening in the epidemic of loneliness and how to mitigate factors that are causing it or exacerbating conditions and health effects associated with it. One of the things that I found really interesting was there was a study in Japan where they had two different projects. There was a community that kept getting flooded, recurring flooding, and it would happen. It was like a tidal wave that would come through. And so one community sought to address that by building a giant seawall to try and prevent, the wave from coming in and destroying the community and the infrastructure there and causing death and mayhem. The other community bought a bunch of wheelbarrows and got people to practice loading people, like older folks or people that are have mobility challenges, into the wheelbarrows and trucking them uphill. And what they found is that the community that used the wheelbarrows and had those more regular interactions and community trainings and involvement, and that sense of, oh, I have to go make sure that my neighbor's okay and I'm getting the wheelbarrow to make sure that I can bring someone up the hill if I need to. It was more impactful in a broader variety of ways, and reduce death and harm in the community by a dramatically, I don't remember the numbers, but it was pretty dramatic as compared to the seawall attempt, which the sea got over somehow, and then they had water that was flooded in their community and not able to leave. So it just demonstrates like people are actually studying these things. And I thought it was really cool that the grant administrators were trying to teach us how to, improve our practices and really think about these things in a more thoughtful way when designing programming to support the goals of the grant. Also, as Sophia said, the weekly recurring opportunities like a yoga class or the paint class, those seem to be the most impactful for developing friendships. There were so many quotes from the people that participated in the art opportunities that my favorite thing was when somebody asked me to lunch. It was so cool and I felt so good about it. And it was just like, I get that because I'm also kind of an introvert and it's hard for me to go into other places and meet a whole bunch of strangers and then ultimately make friends. It's kind of anathema to I don't know, just who I am, I guess. Even though I love people, I'm very shy. So, so that one really tickled my heart. But they, it's a whole bunch of those types of stories, and you could see the evolution of it as they, these surveys were coming in over time. And now they're to the point where, since the grant has ended, they meet once a week, every Thursday. They go to one another's house and they have lunch, and then they paint, or they go to a park, or they go somewhere else and they do these things at a restaurant or wherever. But they're doing it weekly, which was the whole goal of the grant. And so that to me is very exciting and rewarding, that it didn't affect everybody equally, but for those that it did help, it just, I don't know, I love that.
Yes, Christy honestly puts it just perfectly. And also too, even within that, not only participants being able to have that sense of community, but looking at our partners as well, and being able to highlight, we had a wide variety of them, but they were also too able to collaborate as well. For like example, the Good Fire Workshop, being able to merge over, I would say, 6 different organizations and partners, so that way they could host one big Good Fire Workshop all together, doing what they're good at the end of the day, all the way to climate action, all the way to volunteerism, and being able to merge a variety of them. Or even then looking at local businesses like Deja Vu Nursery, who was able to host education workshops for a variety of different plant options, and then being able to have folks stay so that way they can shop locally. Just looking at being able to pump up every avenue possible. And that about wraps it up. Thank you. If there's any questions or anything else.
Just if you can go back to that prior slide, that's just a spotlight of the partners. That's not an all-inclusive list of all the partners that participated in neighbor program, is it not?
I would say there is a few in terms of partners that had put a proposal. So there were other partners as well that had got pulled in as well that they had used.
That's why I say this is not an all-inclusive list, right?
Close though.
It's close, but I can think of some just off the top of my head. I don't see on this list, and I know darn well they were participants. So anyway, the other question I have is this. It's a curiosity more for me than anything else. The grant was for $750,000. The grant participation was extended and it closed just this last month, did it not? About middle of the month or thereabouts?
March 31st.
Now, are we done with all the calculations and the paperwork and everything as far as the state's concerned? Because I'm curious to know how much of that 750,000 was expended. And you probably don't know that at this point in time till you finish all that work.
That's correct. Yeah, we're pretty close. At the last billing at the end of January, which we have received compensation for, we are about a little over 50,000, I think 50, not even 51 all the way, 1,000 left to spend. And we still have February and March that I'm now in the works of processing reimbursements for. So to be determined, I can give you that information in the next finance committee meeting, but it's going to be pretty close. We tried to squeeze as much out of it.
And what is our current reimbursement percentages at this point in time?
They've reimbursed everything that we've asked, and they've been incredibly easy to work with, very fast. And this was a learning curve because they didn't know what it was a brand new program.
At state level, absolutely.
We had to learn, so they were really easy to work with. And had we known what we know now, we probably would have approached things differently. But yeah, we're not leaving much on the table.
Well, again, my compliment to you and everybody involved with this program. I think we learned a lot, and I think we enhanced the communities throughout the district in various ways. We really did, and reinforced some things that were already ongoing, but even more so. So that's
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to add a couple of things. We had a lot of staff that worked on it, dedicated, but Christy and Sophia did a lot. By the way, and Kristen, absolutely, yeah. Kristen was that was the trifecta on this, and I think generate a lot of good ideas. Sophia mentioned the idea of the Good Fire Festival. We're actually separate events, and Christy, I think, wisely looked at the proposals and kind of knitted them more together, got them conversing with each other, which they're not opposed to, but I think it fortified that group to where it then became cultural, then became prescriptive, it then had the educational aspect. Goats showed up, pyrotherapy, and so it became a biochar, it just had kind of a pretty robust full event that I think has some legs to continue. The other thing I was going to mention, and I like our mighty little district competing with much larger entities on this. I think it was city or county of LA, city of San Jose, San Francisco, county of Riverside, Nevada City, which is probably the most closest to us. There's Kern County. They were focusing up on their foothill communities, so that's probably a little bit comparable. Out of those numbers they showed, their total tally, we had occupied funding wise, we're about 10 or 11% of the total. And yet we had a third of all events and a third of all participants in our rural district. So our second place for number of participants was the city of San Jose, which has a little bit larger population to draw from. So I think that really, the leaders at California Volunteers were very impressed with what we were able to do, and the number of partners that we worked with, I think, was a key part of it.
I'm sure we were impressed, but the thing is, this is just a reality pause. It's not an apple to apple comparison. When you think about a rural district like ourselves and this part of the state of California as compared to these highly populated urbanized areas that maybe vary in geographic size, think of the challenges they have just to reach the populace and educate them to want to do various events and that type of thing. It's not quite the same, and yet we have a different environment when you stop and think about it.
There's some opportunities they had, though, where they were funding a lot of their neighborhood associations or community groups, because they're in nice little neat grid patterns and homeowners associations. And so they would just, throw money at them the way we worked with our partners. So it is, it's very different. I think the numbers also demonstrate what a need there is in our community for these events and what a hunger for it. And whether people are a little shy like me or, extroverts like my beloved colleague, Scott Amick, there's all types and there's all kinds of needs. And so the partners, just hats off to them, because really we couldn't have done as much as we did for the community without these folks. That's for sure. Agreed.
Any other board members have comments or questions of staff on this?
Sure. I'll point out first that it was City of Long Beach rather than Los Angeles. I checked. But with regards to the 13292, you don't know how many of those are redundant or how many signups there were. Would California Volunteers get that, considering how many emails I've gotten from Josh Friday? Would they have assembled that to determine how many unique participants there were among the 13,000?
They did have a dashboard that offered that, but it wasn't accurate.
Okay.
So I think it's just a flaw in the software, the Golden Volunteer software, that it's still not there yet. And we could probably figure it out, but the instruction would be for every opportunity to match unique emails. And also not everybody was willing to give their or sign in. So
another question is, as I'm looking at that list of partners and this debrief, was there any exit interview for the various partner organizations to assess what the organizations that we partnered with got out of this grant funding, and to try to bring back, whether there's going to be an additional cycle, or send that to the office of the governor to encourage there to be another cycle, or just for the community to understand the ways in which the different partner organizations were strengthened by this money from Sacramento?
I can maybe speak to that a little bit. So I was able to meet with the executive director for California Volunteers. They're looking at options, but I think it's an administration that's kind of wrapping up its term here. So I think there may be some funding they're looking at that would be focused towards, just a sense of belonging, is how they characterize it. So they may fund some individual events. They chatted with us a bit about the Good Fire Festival. I don't know what's going to come of that, but I think there's an interest. I don't know, and maybe you guys have heard, I don't think there's going to be quite this kind of neighbor to neighbor type program is in the foreseeable future on the budget with especially the California budget being what it is too.
Yeah, they had brought, tried to highlight some of the accomplishments of the program to the state legislature during the budgeting process, but with the deficit, it just doesn't look likely. They were, I think, hoping that they could champion like a small budget carve out to, and to keep the momentum going and introduce it into new communities. But in terms of the exit interview, we didn't do anything formal with our partners, but we certainly have been in active communication, especially with the ones that were, actively involved, like on the weekly sort of event offerings and trying to figure out how we can continue to work together. So we're definitely not going to walk away from those partners. Prior to this, we did have, I don't know if you all recall the community
grant.
There was some acronym and I can't remember what it was for Community Recreation and Assistance Program grant or something. And so we were able to seek proposals from community partners, and out of our contribution to others budget, we allocated a certain amount of funding based on a rubric of scoring for each proposal. And we're able to provide some organizations at modest amount of money to do something. So that's another avenue, perhaps on a very smaller scale, but we're looking for other creative ways too, because this is just too good to just stop.
Well, I'd add too, it's not too late to reach out to those partners and specifically request their feedback with regard to what it has done for their organization. And in doing that, keep those connections going.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, like the Paradise Stronger, they were great. We had so many different interactions and opportunities to support them. And they are now working with us to bring the senior fitness class that kind of outgrew their facility to support our CDBG grant at the PCC for seniors. So the senior fitness class is going to move over to the PCC. So it's just, I think it's because we established trust in that working relationship that we're able to support one another in that way and continue these things. Also, the Paradise Art Center asked for help in their grant application for the North Valley Community Foundation grant. And then there was another one, I think, from the Arts Council or something. So I was able to send them the case study and then some other numbers and some quotes and things that I think will hopefully support, their effort with the grant. But we'll see. Yeah, we're trying to help them. And
yeah, to address that a little more in addition to that, because I think we had generated some really great partnerships that we got used to working with each other, and they've come up with ideas on next step and even some ideas for funding too. So I think there's some good things in the work there. I think once the dust settles completely on this project, we're going to do a little in-house debrief. And then I think we'll reach out to our partners too to see what else we want to do, because I think we have some new opportunities. We have the Paradise Community Center and some other things that are coming up where we might have some creativity and being able to partner with some folks on the facility. So more to come on that, but I think that is definitely part of our debrief moving out over the next 3 months or so.
And I was going to ask one more data geek question. Of the 671 events, how many of those were PRPD led and how many were partner led?
Good question. That would be in the dashboard as well too.
Okay.
And those are accounting for reoccurring as well.
Is that available like through Golden Volunteers? How would we see that?
That would be through Golden Volunteers, but the subscription that we had used was also funded through California Volunteers to use their software. So as far as I'm aware, that we downloaded all the data we could, so we have it on an Excel sheet now, and it would just be number crunching at that point.
Okay. If someone could forward that to me, I'd be happy to crunch those numbers.
Yeah, we can filter and get because we have a project work plan too that we had to submit every quarter, and they then authorize it. And so we could just filter through and get that number to you.
Just thanks for all of the great work. And I still think that the capacity building for all of these partner organizations is going to be the long-term biggest payoff.
Okay, any further discussion amongst the board on this? No further discussion. Does anybody from the public want to speak to this agenda item? If so, please come forward.
It just is one beneficiary of this entire program that's here tonight out of the many that were served. I just want to thank staff for providing this for the whole community and for the whole district. Magalia Community Park, and by the way, I am not the sole beneficiary. The community was, and Magalia Community Park was, so you understand where I was coming from there. We collaborated with the district on a number of neighbor-to-neighbor grant projects the last 3 years. They were all successful. They brought a lot of community together in all the ways the staff just shared. So thank you. I hope that, as Director Stonebreaker and others mentioned tonight, that additional funding can be found for these programs to continue. And I'm glad that that's already being worked on. Thank you.
Is there anyone else from our audience wishing to speak to this agenda item? I see there's nobody else. Okay, so let's move on to item 7.2, district report. Staff, you want to run us through that as time permits?
Yeah, I'll be very brief here. Just a couple of things. I'm on page 53, by the way. There's a stray sentence on the first item there. Just X that out. We do have attached the rough draft budget that has our draft budget and then a capital improvement request. That's going to be coming to our finance committee here shortly. So we'll dive into there a little bit more. Another finance committee item. Because of conflicts, we're going to shift the meeting time to 1:30. And I think that's attachment C, by the way, if you want to get the updated obligations there in our committee assignments. It was last month we had Paradise Horsemen's Association, maybe it was the previous month, that came in. And then they also met with us. Actually, I think it was February. Both parties expressed a lot of enthusiasm on continuing the partnership there and kicking off discussing that lease. So we're looking to bring that revised agreement back to the board probably summer or fall of this year. It expires in the fall, so we'll definitely have it in before October. Good suite of, or good listing there of different reports, information there. We'll be hitting those a lot harder in the next couple of months here with the finance committee and our budget stuff. So we'll kind of walk through some of those. One thing and just, you know, this is, everyone has their own way of looking at it, but looking at our operations, that's on page 70, profit and loss budget versus actual. I like to just do the fraction of where we are in the year. March is the 9th month out of 12, about 3/4 through the year. Our income is at 76%. So that's a good milestone to be at. And then looking at our expenses, we're a little bit over half on that. Some of that will increase over the next few months with the weather and programs getting underway and just sort of more projects taking off. But just kind of on a bare bones basis, we're in pretty good shape as far as our budget looks right now. We'll dive into that more as we come. There's lots of great pictures in our report. Maybe Connor, if you could go show some of those up there. But a lot of progress made by our crew on painting, repair of fences, some of the other items that are underway, putting logos, our new logo on old signs. And that's page 58 or so of Connor, if you want to go through there. Okay, yeah. And share the screen, by the way, too. So anyway, there's some really good activities there. We had a good report last month from our recreation team. Next month, we'll have some recap on a bunch of events. April's very busy for us. Today, we had amazing load of fish get dropped off the lake. Nice sized fish. We got good pictures and video, including one of our staff members getting some close-up shots of trout being dropped off in there. So, you know, really look forward to sharing that with the public. And you probably saw in the back of the room just a fraction of some of the gear on the donations for the lake. Lori McCausland's done a remarkable job on, as usual, dropping up some new sponsors and equipment. It's just kind of fun to think about, like putting fishing poles and some of the gear and fun and people's hands. The weather may be marginal this weekend, supposed to rain, but fish don't care. Hopefully the kids are well dressed and fortified. In either case, we have 700 hot dogs in which we can feed people. So if somebody needs hot dogs with some fixins on Saturday, there's quite a bit of food that will be available to the public there. Just kind of jumping ahead on a couple things. I know that there's a lot of work days coming up for volunteers. I've renamed Sophia our decoupage queen for her crafting ability. So that's happening at the PCC, but there's a lot of outdoor experiences as well. One thing to keep up put on your radar is the Honey Run Covered Bridge. We have a proposal that we shared in this packet that they provided to us. We're looking at options, exploration of management. We don't know what that looks like yet. Those conversations are continuing, but that will come to the board as a report. We'll finish that end of June. It'll come to the board in probably July or August. So look for that completed report to be brought to the board at that point. Let's see. Oh, another one put on your radar is coming to our Rec and Park Committee will be a revision or review of our architectural services for the building there. We have 3 bids on that, and we'll bring that to board for review, but it'll make a stop at the Rec and Park Committee first. Oh, just one other thing I'll mention. 2 other things I'll mention. Aquatic, our shop building. We're working with the design contractor on that. Had a really productive meeting last time talking about like diving into some details. I think that'll be coming up. We'll share that overall conceptual design when that gets ready at committee and likely the board. That will require some additional funding for some of the additions that we're sorting through that right now. What are district initiated options? What are rebuild insurance funded options? What are options that are code requirements that the insurance will cover? And then that last category again is kind of district electives, basically. So there are some things that we would like to incorporate into the design. We'll be bringing that design to rec. We'll be bringing a request for funding for the design for the district initiatives to our finance committee and then board for approval. Last thing I was going to mention is the progress on our new recreation software seems to be going very well, and we're on track for our kind of rollout on July 1st for it. So we'll keep you posted. There's a lot to do on it. We just got it started, that authorization recently here. So we're seeing where we need to go. Happy to answer any questions. There's a lot of information in here. A lot of information will come to you next month, but be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, let's open it to the board. Do you have any questions on anything that hasn't been discussed or that's in the district report for staff? Apparently not. So thank you, staff.
You're welcome.
We'll move on. Board comments. This is the time we share comments and with one another as board members since our last board meeting and essentially report on anything that you've been involved with that has pertinence to the district. So we'll start with what's been going on since March 11th.
One of the community members over in Concow has been trying to contact you, and I don't know if he's talked to anybody yet. Mike Ashlock. He's interested in since we have the MOU with Thermalita Water. He wants to put a duck observation site on Lake Concow, a wood duck observation. I haven't.
I did get a call. I'll call him back. I think he was looking to install wood duck boxes out there.
Oh.
And I left a message. I wasn't able to leave a message when I called him. So if you could let him know to call the office here again, that would be appreciated. Well, for whatever reason, I couldn't get through to leave a message. So thank you.
It doesn't sound like a expensive endeavor.
Yeah, we could just put him in touch. You know,
And he's trying to partner with others also, like Ducks Unlimited.
Yeah.
I think he's got them on board, and so I'll tell him to give you another call.
okay, thank you.
Joanne, anything?
Yeah, okay, perfect. Through the Healthy Here, Healthy Communities Collaborative, tomorrow they are launching with Healthy Butte, the One Thing Today campaign, down at the farmer's market from 6 to 8 in the plaza. So there'll be a lot of community partners there tabling, just participating, sharing information, and promoting the One Thing Today. So the app goes live tomorrow. There'll be a lot of information going out, blasting it all through, getting people to download the app. They'll get reminded to choose one thing every day. It changes. You'll get reminders throughout that. So yeah, pretty big.
Mr. Roddick?
It's this last Saturday, I had the opportunity to go to the Easter egg hunt in the morning. My grandchildren from Portland were in town, and so they got the opportunity to take a picture with the Easter Bunny, and so did I. And I just found out the Easter Bunny knows my name, so that was exciting. The only other thing I have to
Mr. Bunny has a list too.
yeah. Hey, I did find myself a week ago Sunday at Paradise Lake, and someone lent me their long 600 millimeter lens, and I discovered a large osprey nesting about just past the three and a quarter mile marker on the, I guess it would be the north side of the lake, and it's a beautiful bird, large bird. So that was exciting. So that's all I have to share this time.
Director Stormbreaker?
Yeah, I was able to use the gap in my schedule to get out on my property the middle week of March, try to clean up from the snowstorms with giant black oaks that had snapped in half and a bunch of smaller conifers that had been snow crushed. And then I went back to having too many meetings, got to say some words to the supervisors about their inaccurate housing element progress report, and got to attend the BCAG meeting and try to make sure that we continue to have fixed route bus service up here on the ridge. I went down to the This Way to Resilience at Chico State, had some good interactions with the people tabling, and then some disturbing interactions afterwards to listen to one of the after I had spoken to one of the organizations that was building housing here on the ridge. I got to listen to one of the panelists who was dead set against that. I spoke to one of the organizers afterwards about possibly platforming some different voices next year. And then the next day I had a very good experience at the Elks for the homesteading fair with very upbeat vibe there. I got to interact with one of our staff members in his personal capacity, and realized afterwards that I probably should have spoken more with the tablers on the day before, even though I didn't really necessarily have anything in common with the student groups and all of that, just to get a better understanding of the groups that chose to be represented. And I had a couple of really good interactions with longtime Ridge residents, one who had grown up on Moore Road across from the ballpark, and then another longtime partner, just serendipitous interactions to understand the impact that our facilities have had here on our residents and on the district, and with the continued rebuilding of the community. Also managed to attend a couple of nonprofit organizations' monthly meetings to get an understanding of the different ways that different organizations are seeing things here on the ridge, and the way that different organizations do business. So looking forward to having a bit more rain, even if it dampens the Hope Plaza celebrations and all of that. And also hope to be at the CHIP sort of ribbon cutting on Friday. So still getting out there as much as I can and interacting with the community and the constituents.
Okay, thank you, John. Since last board meeting on March the 11th, that same evening, that night, Director Roderick and myself and our district manager met and discussed with we were PRPD ad hoc committee members, met with the Honey Run Covered Bridge Association's board. And that's when they presented the materials that you have in your board packet. So that occurred that evening of the 11th. So it was a very constructive dialogue, and there's a lot of work ahead. Looks like needs to be done on, as Mr. FCF has reported this evening. On the very next day, St. Patrick's Day, March the 17th, had the privilege of participating an in-house meeting of the California Association Recreation Park District Board of Directors. So that was a very productive meeting. We're looking forward to hopefully a well-structured and successful conference this calendar year down in Monterey during the latter part of May. Also, we spent the night, and the very next day, the majority of us board members, along with our CA, RPD staff, and 2 members of our lobbying firm, we spent the lion's share of the very next day at the Capitol and had constructive meetings with 2 members of the California legislature, an assembly member as well as a state senator, and their staffs. And what we were doing on behalf of our member districts was trying to make our points known about certain bills that have been introduced into the legislative process, some of which appear to be potentially harmful to park and rec districts in California, and some of which we actually, on behalf of our member districts, actually support. So that was a very constructive day. And then on April the 3rd, Director Roderick and myself, wait a minute, was it April 3rd? I think it was. The Paradise Arts District Board meeting at the Arts Center. I think it was April 3rd. We attended that, and actually it was a very well attended Paradise Arts District board meeting because they had invited several representatives of other community organizations involved with the arts or culture and things of that nature, and they were really commingling and talking about the idea of maybe expanding the membership of their organization to include these other representative organizations. So we'll see where that goes. On March the 24th, you already know this, our Rec and Park Committee had a meeting, and Robert attended by phone, and I was there physically, but we did have a productive committee meeting, thanks to Christy and staff. And then Mr. Stormbreaker and we had a finance committee meeting that same week on the 26th. I think we went over a lot of materials on that day. Last but not least, on April the 2nd, Butte LAFCO, we had our monthly meeting, and the highlights of that meeting that are somewhat pertinent to special districts is we adopted the preliminary fiscal year 2026-27 budget for LAFCO, and then we, upon conclusion of a public hearing, we approved an MSR and sphere of influence update for the city of Gridley. So that's all I have to report this evening, everyone. And at this point in time, I'd like to...
If I may, I would like to add one more thing for the record. I had a good meeting with Kevin Phillips from Paradise Irrigation late in March, where he informed me that he had been in DC lobbying on behalf of the district to get funding for Magalia Dam after the federal judge had ruled that the termination of the program under which that had previously been funded was unlawful. And then after Mark Wayne Mullins was sworn in, the Department of Homeland Security chose not to contest that ruling. So what Kevin told me is that it's just a matter of crossing the T's to get that funding reinstated. So anybody who's involved in this should be aware that it is likely that the dollars that had been promised to PID are going to be coming back to make the necessary repairs to Magalia Dam. So that's a piece of good news that I hope to share with the community.
Okay, thank you. So at this point in time, I'd like to adjourn the meeting and thank everyone for your attendance this evening, and safe travels on your way to home and elsewhere.